All right, welcome everybody to our webinar. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We are so excited to share with you, give you some great insights in terms of Facebook and Instagram, and specifically our webinar headline is how to know your exact sales results when you run a campaign. This is going to be an informative webinar. To my left is Tyler Wilson. Tyler, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sure. So, hey everybody, my name is Tyler Wilson. I am the digital strategist here at J&L Marketing. I've been part of the team here for almost 5 years, which is very exciting. I've been fortunate to be in the digital space since early 2008. So, it's obviously changed a lot since then.
Absolutely.
I've been also fortunate enough to work with, small clients up to Fortune 50 clients even. I've been working with Caterpillar, GE Appliances, Cigna Health Insurance, and now obviously in the automotive space, working with some big OEMs and dealerships. So I'm excited to be part of the J&L team and excited to be here today.
Absolutely. And so Tyler's role at J&L Marketing, and I only do these webinars once a month, and I wanted to bring Tyler on this webinar because he is one of the most intelligent people when it comes to digital marketing I've ever met. And we're very lucky to have him at J&L. So his role as a digital strategist is to look at new product ideas, cutting edge technology for either J&L to invest in or build. So what we're going to show you today is something that was released by Facebook and Instagram a few months ago. We've built out the technology here in-house, and it is a way for you to be able to see your direct ROI, your direct return on investment from your Facebook and Instagram campaigns. My name is Jamil Zabadeh. I'm the president here at J&L Marketing. I've been with J&L for over 12 years. About 8 to 9 years ago, myself and people like Tyler Wilson built out our digital marketing. Now it serves in all industries. So a lot of the things we're going to talk today are going to be specific to the automotive industry, right? But I know there's clients of ours that are in the construction industry, agriculture, food services. This applies to any industry. And this technology is available and it's extremely exciting, especially when we get into the new iOS updates, because a lot of marketers as well as clients are looking for, well, how am I going to track conversions? How am I going to track an ROI with the new updates with Apple?
Right, absolutely, absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about, real quick, J&L Marketing. J&L Marketing, we've been in business for almost 30 years now. That is our corporate headquarters out of Louisville, Kentucky. Just real quick, obviously we do digital marketing. We're Google partner status, Facebook partner status, as well as Bing partner status. The other interesting thing that we're going to talk about later on today is about utilizing your customer data. For this to work, you need to work with a provider that can pull your data, whether that's through Reynolds and Reynolds, CDK, Dealer Vault, Authenticom, and be able to import the data as well as export the data into Facebook or Instagram. So we're going to talk a lot about how to use your customer data and track that ROI.
Absolutely.
So why does this all matter? So if any of you guys are like me, once the closing bell hit yesterday, I wanted to look at Facebook and earnings, and you guys have probably seen it was up, way up after hours last night, and it continues today. So why is their stock continue to rise? Well, I think you can see it in the chart here. Every year, more and more money is being spent in Facebook. And when I say Facebook, I use Facebook and Instagram interchangeable because Facebook, as you probably most of you know, owns Instagram. But you can see more and more ad dollars are being spent in Facebook and Instagram. And the primary reason is it works. It does produce a good ROI for all of our clients. And their update, which is being able to track offline conversions, what we're going to talk about today, is one reason why the company is pretty cutting edge. Would you agree with that, Tyler?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's where the audience is, right? That's where your customers are at. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, and what better way to get in front of them?
Absolutely. So, why should this matter to you? I don't care if you're a general manager, president of a company, or even a service manager or marketing director listening to this. It should be very, very important to you that digital marketing for most clients that we work in, inside or outside of the auto, digital marketing makes up anywhere between 30 to 50% of their overall budget. The sad thing is a lot of people don't truly understand what the return on investment is on that digital marketing. They know they have to do it. They feel compelled to do it because their competition is doing it. But if you really sat down with them, they wouldn't know what their true ROI is. Now, some of you guys might be saying, no, I do a great job with it. I can tell you how many phone calls I have, how many lead conversions I got off of my paid media, maybe, what the actions were done. And that's great. You are 70–80% miles ahead. And up to this point for Facebook, that is all we could track. So at J&L, similar to most agencies, we use Google Tag Manager.
Absolutely.
And what's great about Google Tag Manager is it's a way to basically track your ad, and when that person that clicks on your ad, what they did on their website. But as many of you guys know, in the automotive industry, as it stands today, we are not purchasing a car online. So unlike some of our e-commerce clients, Tyler, we can't track up to this point actual online sales, correct?
Right. There's obviously the disconnect between what happened on the ad, what happened on the website, and then maybe 3 weeks later they came in and bought, right?
Correct. So what we're going to talk about today is being able to tell the whole story. So as you can see in the bullet points, clicks and conversions don't tell the whole story. It doesn't tell you how much service revenue that you got off of that ad. It doesn't tell you how many car sales that you got off of that ad. So this is why this was introduced, and this is why, quite frankly, we're so excited to show you guys.
Absolutely.
So Tyler, kind of explain to the audience, what will it do for them?
Well, overall, it's really just going to help us better understand what our campaigns or ad sets or ads are doing, but then it's going to allow us to make more intelligent decisions moving forward. So, obviously optimizing towards impression share or reach or frequency have always been important to make sure we're branding correctly and getting our message out, but really measuring the true ROI, and that's going beyond the phone calls and the form completions to say, okay, which ads, which campaigns are actually getting people into the dealership and getting them to buy the cars. So what this allows us to do is take that offline data and push it into Facebook and then match it back. And so we know definitively, okay, these ad sets, these campaigns, these ads are producing and these are not. So when we have our weekly, monthly optimization calls, we can go back to the client and say, hey, we're very confident that if we put more budget into these campaigns or these ad sets, then we will see a higher ROI in the end, right?
No, I think that's what's big too. And when we show you what the results kind of look like, it's beyond just showing the client now, hey, you sold 5 cars off of this Facebook campaign that was an in-market audience that had never been to your website. But the ability to be able to show them that we're optimizing, we're moving money around now based off of these results is huge, correct?
Absolutely. And then also, the other benefit is to create audiences. So maybe you can create people that have sold or bought recently and create that audience and use it for service, for example, because they've recently bought a vehicle and they may need to serve it in the next few months. Also, you can create lookalike audiences. There's a lot of different ways that we can use this data, but that's the most important thing, is getting the data and then using it intelligently. And this really allows us to do all of that.
Absolutely.
So one thing to really keep in mind is this data is not retroactive. And so what I mean by that is you can't just go into your Facebook ads campaign today and upload the last month of data and expect it to match. It doesn't work like that. A lot of people are probably familiar with what's called the Facebook pixel or tracking cookies. So, you go on a website and there's this code on the back end of the site that's being appended onto your browser and your search history, right? And that's how the ad platforms really know that, hey, this person's retargeted with this exact vehicle because we've cookied them and we can identify what they've been looking at. So the offline event set is very similar in nature to like setting up the cookie, but it is something that has to be set up first in order for us to actually start collecting that data and then be able to match it back. So it's not retroactive in that we can't just upload data now, but say today, if we wanted to, we could set up the offline event set, and then starting today, we'd be able to start matching it back.
So number one, if they're not using J&L, what they need to do is they need to tell their agency, hey, for all my campaigns on Facebook and Instagram, we need to set up offline conversion tracking.
Absolutely.
That's step one.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
That's step one, just get it going. And then this is really kind of talking about how the data flow works. So step one is getting the events set up, right? Step two is obviously running the ads to your target audience, and ideally they're interacting with them, they're going on your website, and then in the end of the day, they're actually visiting your dealership, okay? Well, what we do after the fact is we'll take your sold data, whether that's your sales revenue, your service revenue, make sure it's formatted and optimized, and make sure it's, in the way that it needs to push for the API. And then we can push that data into Facebook and Instagram. So what's going to happen is then it's going to be able to match back the data that you've uploaded versus the data that's collected on the people. And so everything's very, private and personalized. So it's not going to give us any first party, first name, last name, anything like that. But Facebook's looking at the mobile ID, they're looking at the data that you've uploaded and everything like that. And they're able to match almost about 80 to 90% of the data that we're pushing.
Okay, so as a dealer, we'll just say, I sell 150 cars last month. Obviously, we upload the 150 cars, and you're saying out of the 150 cars, Facebook can find or identify about 85 to 90% of those that they were matched, and then show, well, out of those 85, 90% of them, how many of them did we serve ads to?
Correct. So first it's going to match back to see, okay, are those people matching back with the users that we have within our own database based upon all the mobile ID and all these different criteria. And then from there, it's going to say, okay, based upon the data that you've inputted, did these users purchase on the date that we've been received? And if so, it's going to be able to match it back to the exact ad set campaign of where those conversions occurred from.
That's awesome.
So you may be asking, what kind of data does it match against? And to be, very open about this, everything is hashed. And what that means, it's encrypted when it's sent into the system. So there's not really a concern about, oh, well, I'm uploading this data. And, obviously data has been an issue with Facebook in the past, Cambridge Analytica, and they've obviously had some scandals with that. So there's obviously concerns about, well, I don't want my customer data just out in the network. But this data gets hashed, encrypted, and sent to the system, and then removed immediately once it's been pushed. But we're matching against emails, first name, last name, phone number, your city, your state. The more data that we have to ingest, the higher the match rate. So the more data that we can get from the CRM and match back with the sales and service, the more information we can push to Facebook, and the better our results will end up being.
And what's great about, a lot of you guys are in the automotive industry that's listening in. What's good about the auto industry, within a rental system, CDK, almost all these data points are all in there. So that's why we're seeing, 90% match rates. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it makes it very easy for us to extract it and format it and get it pushed into the system.
What I also like about it, Tyler, is, and this is for any agency, right? I think as a lot of clients, you're always skeptical of agency reports. The Facebook and Instagram is doing the actual matching. So this is something that you can actually see in your Facebook account, as well as your agency's dashboard, that it all matches.
Absolutely.
So it's not like the agency saying that you sold 40 cars off of $500 of Facebook spend. It's through Facebook and Instagram that's doing the matching.
Right. So the validation is there on their end. And this is just kind of a visual of how that works. So you can see on the right-hand side, there's the Facebook, kind of audience. The left-hand side is the data that you're ingesting, your CRM. And then that middle is the match. So again, we've seen anywhere between 80 to 90% because we are getting a lot of really good data and able to ingest that into the system. But the more data we have, the easier it is to match back.
And what's also great, Tyler, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the automotive industry, so for instance, we have a lot of our dealerships that we have daily data feeds from.
Yep.
So what I think is great about this is you don't have to wait for your month to end to make optimizations. So, if you're on a daily data feed with your agency, like most of our clients are, we're getting that data on a daily basis. So you don't have to wait to the end of the month to make these optimizations or see what's working. You can pretty much go into the dashboard the next day or the following day and see the previous or the following day's results. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that's a very good point Jamil mentions too, because the more data that Facebook gets and the more often it gets, the easier it is for its system to be able to match it back too. So it's preferred to send the data daily automatically via an API. It is also, you can do it manually. It is a little more of a tedious process, but that's where once we get it, the whole system, kind of automated, that's really the ideal route to go.
Absolutely.
Okay, and this is just another visual we talked about earlier, just how, all this data is hashed for privacy concerns. Obviously, that is a big, concern that people have. And with Apple's newest iOS update, that's something that's going to really impact this as well. But this is just a visual just showing how the whole hashing process works, how this data is submitted, encrypted, and then there's no concern about it, kind of being out in the open there.
So step one is set up all your campaigns for offline conversion tracking. Step two is find a way to get the data over to your agency, right? And make sure you're working with an agency that can handle the data. What I always recommend is any agency that you're sending data over, they should have a minimum $10 million of cyber liability insurance. That's really, really important because everything is encrypted, but if something were to happen, make sure you're covered. And then step three is, if you can, try to get the feeds daily, correct?
Mhm.
And that way we're not waiting to the end of the month to see that, oh my goodness, we spent $800 on a Facebook campaign that hadn't sold any vehicles.
Right.
We're making those optimizations. You're seeing the data pretty much on a weekly basis.
Mhm. Yep, absolutely. The more data we can get, the better. And then, of course, continuous measurement and optimization. It never stops because even once you get it figured out, there's always little tweaks. Maybe we can tweak the copy. Maybe we can do something here with our audience. But really taking that data and say, okay, how can we apply this and make sure that our next month is better than ever before?
And one thing I know that I've talked about another webinar, and just to kind of bring it all together, your agency should already be using your customer data as it stands right now. So like in Facebook and Instagram, and most of you guys probably know this, you can upload your DMS data to Facebook or Instagram and target one-to-one people. And so like on service, you might want to go after inactive customers, or you might want to go after recall owners. On the sales side, you might want to segment the list and go after certain people that have expiring leases, or people that fall within the analytics of your campaign, or within that company, or maybe they're on your auto alert list. So you're already uploading the list. And what's great about this is now you can see even a match back of the
Exactly.
DMS customers,
Yes,
correct?
exactly. We can see active, inactive, who's converting, who's not converting, and then adjust accordingly.
Awesome.
So let's talk about the actual measurement of results. And this is pulled directly from our dashboard. So we integrate everything with API, pulled this directly from Facebook. So here's an example you can see on the right-hand side. This is looking at Johnson City Honda dealership in Eastern Tennessee. This is for this month. So, we still have a few days left, but again, this is the big benefit of the daily automation. So we can see really daily and weekly what's going on. 13 offline purchases means they sold 13 vehicles. The offline value of 357,000 is the revenue they generated off those 13 vehicle sales.
Yep. And then you, to the left, you can see the client costs. So Facebook's for the month between April 1st to April, we'll call it, 24th, 25th, they spent about $750. So out of the $750, they were able to match back 13 vehicle sales.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's
And
correct.
then out of 13 vehicle sales, and I know obviously this isn't gross, but the total revenue of those 13 vehicles was 357,000.
That's correct. So that's at the overall level, but we can get down to the campaign, the ad set, and the individual ad. So let's take a look at the campaign breakdown. So along the left-hand side here on the chart, right under the campaign, you can see the campaign names. And so we have them structured in such a way where it's attack, high intent, dynamic VIN. So these are our dynamic retargeting ads. So when somebody goes to a 2008 Honda Civic and they see that exact vehicle, the system's going to cookie them. And then as they go back to and view their feeds, or they're on Instagram, they're going to get an ad with that exact year, make, model. We're able to inject the price and so on. So our dynamic VIN new models, and we also have used models, we show 7 vehicle sales directly attributed to those campaigns on $210 in ad spend. So you can see our total revenue that was associated with those 7 sales, and then all the associated results, whether click-through rate, impressions, CPM, etc.
Here, this is why I love it, right? I mean, because honestly, the page before, cool, it gave you a good metric. We sold, a good amount of cars for $750. I think this is the most important information, and I'll tell you why. This is where you can align your ad spend to your goals. So as an example, I have dealerships all the time that say to me, I got to grow market share. I got to get new people that don't know about my dealership, are not going to my website, and I got to sell cars to those people. So what's great about that is you can see, okay, well, my remarketing list, and we know remarketing is important, and we do VIN specific remarketing. You might not put that at the same level of importance in terms of cost per sale, as an example. So if you sold 7 cars from your remarketing, you might say that's fine. But if you sold 4 cars from people that have never been to your website, but they were on an in-market list, they were on third-party or competitor site, you might say, hey, I sold 3 cars from that. I want to put more money into that, because even though the cost per car sale is higher, it's more important to me because they've never been on my website.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where doing it at the campaign and the ad set level allows us to get to that granular level that we're trying to see to really make those decisions more, valuable.
I think that's huge. And then obviously too, if if your goal is retention and just maximizing your total number of vehicle sales, then in that case, we could possibly, in that example, we would move more money to the remarketing audience.
Right. And then, like I said, was talking about, we can go to the exact ad level. So here's just a snapshot of our dynamic retargeting ad that is going to be a carousel, and it's going to be optimized towards the vehicles that they're looking at. But you can see this exact ad and then the associated metrics with the individual ads as well. So for whether it's sales, maybe we're running, model-based incentives, and we have 3 different models. Well, we can say, okay, how many do we sell on this model, and this model, and this model? And then maybe next month we can reallocate, or we can say, hey, this one seemed to be really popular. Let's try to put more budget there, right?
That's awesome, because I mean, I think all of us, typically when we pick our ad sets for social, it's a lot of times it's based off of inventory or incentives. Now we can also throw a third metric in there as well. How many cars am I actually selling off of that ad set? So you can always go down, if you're a Honda store, you can look at, well, when I ran a pilot ad, this is how many vehicle sales I got.
Absolutely. We can also look at this data for service. So this is not mutually exclusive to sales, right? So we can take that same sort of data and we can upload it and push it back into the system for service revenue. So this is just an example of a dealer over the last couple of weeks. They had just spent a couple $100, but we were showing 5 completed purchases. So that means 5 people, were exposed and clicked on the ads, came into the dealership, actually had service revenue, and then we pushed that data into the system. We're able to match it back to our ads.
I think for service, this is a real home run, because I think one of the hardest challenges with like a service manager is they're so used to doing direct mail or email where they just get matchback reports, right? Where we all know, what I've tried to explain to service managers or fixed ops directors, I can do 1,000 ads, 1,000 impressions on Facebook or on display, and it's less than $5 to $7, right? And if you're trying to bring back inactive customers, there's not a better platform than digital. So now we can actually show them, here was your service revenue that you got from Facebook and Instagram. So in this example, a couple $100, this is for a BMW dealership, and they got 5 transactions from it, over $2,000 in service revenue. Fantastic.
And again, it's showing how we can get down to that exact level of service as well, how we have, whether we're looking at our page engagers in our remarketing list, or whether we want to look at our previous customer list, you can see the difference on the spend. And then, okay, what is our value? So we can see somebody from our customer list came in, had $156 service repair, versus we had somebody came in from the page engagers and they had a $303 service repair. So of course, it's a small sample size, but this is where that we can start using the data to say, okay, what's really starting to drive the most ROI for us?
Absolutely. And one thing to mention is you're not going to be able to pull out the exact ROs. Facebook, obviously, with privacy issues, they don't show you those exact people. Now, we have had dealerships say, well, I can look at who did a transaction of $154.14. Yes, you could backdoor it that way, but Facebook is not showing to us, here are the exact customer names.
Right. Yeah, we do not get any of that information at all. That's all PII, and it's all very behind the scenes. And then again, just down to the individual ad level. So for service, you can start looking at, okay, what service offers seem to be converting the most, or maybe we're running carousels.
Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Bless her.
To really understand, okay, this ad is produced 3 different purchases for $1,700 in value. So, okay, maybe next month we continue to run something similar, or we say, okay, this didn't seem to do as well. Maybe we go after, a $10 off semi-synthetic offer, something like that.
And I think that with service, I don't care if you're doing mail, email, or digital, that's always a challenge. What are my offers going to be this month? So now you can let the data dictate it, what's getting you the most transactions in your service department, and go with that.
Sure. Yeah. And it honestly makes the decision making easier, because
Absolutely.
It's like, hey, this is the exact ROI we're getting from this. Let's, put more money towards it. So, just general measure and optimize. So we always want to look at the campaigns, the individual ad sets, and the individual ads. and go beyond the click-through rate and CPC and conversions. And I know those are usually the vanity metrics that we're looking at, frequency and reach and impressions, and are we getting enough conversions? But now we're able to take that offline data and really maximize and optimize towards that. And then of course, create different audiences. So whether that's using your customer, your first party data and uploading that, or that's, creating the lookalike audiences, the remarketing audiences, just exploring the different audiences, and maybe they're even the in-market audiences that we've had a lot of success with. And just really just testing and optimizing, and then looking at your ad copy, of course, your offers, incentives, and really just bringing it all together. So just high level strategies, right? Use your data are my #1 recommendation above everything else. Customer match lists are probably our top performers with remarketing campaigns,
Right.
because these are the people that we know already own the vehicle, right? Or they have the highest intent because they've shown it in the past. Lookalike audiences, audience layering, exclusions, I think are very useful. And I don't think a lot of people are utilizing exclusions like they should. So what I mean by that is, say there's a 6 months active customers, and you don't want to be hitting them because there's not really any benefit. So you can take that data and upload it into the system, and then exclude those people from seeing your ads to make sure that you're only serving to the most in-market people and getting the people that you really want into the dealership, and not, it's great to see the same people coming in again, but it really needs to align with your strategy.
Absolutely. I mean, that big strategy #1, as you saw, you can't do any of this today without using your data. But what Tyler's going over here is using your data for targeting is extremely important. It's important on the sales side, but on the service side, it's just as, if not even more important. And I'm always amazed that when I sit down with a service director or service manager, they say they're doing digital marketing and they're spending $2,000-3,000 on direct mail. And then I said, okay, on your digital marketing, are you using your DMS?
Mhm.
And their first answer is, I don't think so. And if you think about it, your DMS has if you're a Honda dealership, known Honda owners. That's where you need to start. You need to target those known Honda owners. A lot of you guys can pull data through your manufacturer through like a Service Smarts tool, through Urban Science. You're getting graded based off of that service score, service index score, service effectiveness score. It's a great opportunity for you to hit these people in a very cost-effective manner.
Absolutely. And I think honestly, a lot of dealers are doing a good job with their inventory and showcasing that inventory, whether that's often through the dynamic, retargeting ads, but utilizing the first party data and the sold data, I think is the biggest miss that is in the market right now. So I want to talk a little bit about iOS 14.5, because that is actually just rolling out this week. And for anybody that's not familiar with that, that's the newest Apple update. And this is a big one because this is impacting Facebook and Instagram directly. And so what is happening with this is essentially it's a privacy update. There's going to be a new prompt. And so when any Apple iOS user updates to 14.5, they're going to get a prompt when they log on to the platform. And it's going to say, hey, do you consent for us to use your data for advertising purposes? Now, initial studies show about 7 out of 10 people are opting out already. So when people opt out, it's going to really, really seriously limit the ability for us to track anything that they do on that platform. So this really just ties back into making the offline data so much more valuable, because if we're losing the ability to track them on the site and all these events, we can at least take that offline data and push it back into the system and be able to match back that way.
No, I think this is huge. I mean, so just so everyone's clear, the iOS 14.5 update is affecting conversion tracking through being able to track, people that go on your website and click get e-price or fill out a form or call your dealership. Okay, it will not affect everything that we just went over today, being able to track back offline conversions. So I think what Tyler said is important is this is why the agency that you use has to be doing this right now, because you are not going to get the same level of detail of data for Facebook and Instagram to do optimizations correctly. And you're going to have to do this offline conversion tracking. And honestly, the offline conversion tracking is probably more accurate too.
Right. And this is something that it's impacting every agency across the board, every advertiser. We've known about it now for a month or two. We've actually had calls with Facebook rep in preparation for this. So this isn't something that we out of the blue. but this is something that's rolling out this week and is impacting everybody across the board. And if you are running Facebook advertising, I highly, highly recommend reaching out to your agency or whoever's running the ads for you and say, hey, have we, verified our domain? Have we, prioritized our events? Have we done the things that we need to do to not be, completely crushed by this?
And then the
So
last question would be, are you set up for offline conversion? tracking?
absolutely, absolutely. Because if not, that's where we're at, right?
Absolutely.
So, we want to thank everybody for joining us here today. We do have an offer. If you go to freeinsightreport.com, it's something that's usually $500-$600 in value, but anybody that's on the call today, you can go there, sign up for it. We'll give you a free Facebook, Instagram ad analysis. So we're going to identify what you're doing currently on Facebook and Instagram, what your competitors and your market are doing, whether that's the ones that are closest to you or whoever you've identified. We're also going to be giving you a free digital marketing video that kind of hits on the high level of how digital marketing operates and the ins and outs, and then also a free digital competitive insight report that's going to be looking at your paid search market share, what's going on with that, who your competitors are, and then obviously any opportunities that we would identify that we think would be helpful.
I think this report and this analysis is vital, because the reality is for you to win market share or win back market share and to make gains against the competition is you have to know what your competition is doing. So what this report's going to do is it's going to give you an in-depth look of what you're currently doing, but also maybe what your competition's doing that potentially is hurting you.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for today's webinar. I'm going to quickly open it up. If you have any questions, I'm going to open up the chat right here and we'll go through them. Okay, we have one question. There's a private chat. What is the cost for offline conversion tracking? So there should be no cost. Just want to make that very clear. Facebook does not charge advertisers any money to do this matchback as of right now. And hopefully they won't. And I imagine with the iOS update, they're not going to be charging in the immediate future. The only charge that we charge at J&L is to get your data. As you guys probably know, Reynolds and Reynolds, CDK, these data providers, these DMS providers do charge for us to go in your system and do automatic pulls of the data. So that would only be the only cost. Depending on the DMS provider that you have, that can vary. You should be honestly doing that already, because you should be using your DMS data for targeting, whether that's on paid search, Google Ads, or on Facebook and Instagram. So dealers that are already with a data extraction, there would be no cost after that. Another question we had, just want to confirm with everyone, when you do look at the matchback reports, again, just to verify, we can't pull the exact people by their name, but we can see their transaction value because that comes from the DMS, and you can see whether it was a sales purchase or whether it was a service purchase. So, you can, if you really wanted to, you could maybe find some of these exact transactions if you wanted to go throughout that.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like somebody was asking about the time between uploading the data and actually showing in the system. It's very quick. You can upload the data and usually within about 30 minutes, it's already populating within the Facebook platform and then within our own reporting dashboard.
And I think that's it. If there's any other questions here in the next 5 seconds, we'll give everyone an opportunity to ask. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I encourage everyone on here, go on the website, get your free competitive analysis. If you guys have any specific questions, please feel free to reach out to Tyler or myself. We'll be able to help you out, steer you the right way. Thank you guys. Everybody have a great week. For us in Louisville, Kentucky, it's Derby week, so we're super excited. Thank you.